I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. Welcome to the November 2nd, 2021 special meeting of the Human Services Advisory Board. I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:03. Thank you all for attending. Okay, we'll take roll call now. Joanne Parsons. Monica Gonzalez.
Present.
Alfreda Lee.
Here.
Eleanor.
Here.
There she is. Okay. Melina. Gloria.
Here.
And okay. With 7 of the 7 voting members in attendance, we have a quorum. So we have, our meeting will be a little bit different this evening. Staff, is there anyone present in person, online, or by phone to speak during the citizens comment period?
No, there's no one.
Okay. We will now consider approval by motion of the October 26, 2021 meeting minutes. Did everyone get the meeting minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Yes.
Who is yes?
Hold on.
Gloria? Okay.
No, yes. I gotta get one thing.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay, Joanne Parsons, second. Does the board have any discussion or corrections regarding the minutes? No? All in favor, please say
Aye.
Okay.
A.
aye. Anyone against? Just say nay. Okay, the motion to approve carries. Okay, we will now receive a presentation from Carol Griffin, Housing and Community Development Manager, on the preliminary average scores by the board of the applications for Human Services grant funding. After the presentation, we will roll right into the next agenda item, which is to hold a staff facilitated discussion among board members on the FY 2021-2022 Human Services grant applications for the purpose of comparison, evaluation, and selection to create a recommendation to the City Council on which applicant agencies should receive funding and how much funding should be granted to each selected agency. So now we'll turn the floor over to Carol.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so first of all, I thought I would recommend that everyone pull out the sheet that looks like this, the evaluation criteria, and then also the risk assessment. I thought it might be helpful as we're going through this just to have that on hand. So I also would like to show y'all the scoring results. And I'm going to assume that you can see that. Can somebody confirm you can see my spreadsheet? Yes. Okay, good. Okay. So let's see what I recommend. So I'm going to go through this spreadsheet and walk you through how I set it up to show the average scoring from all of the board members. I recommend that we first discuss which agencies should receive funding and then discuss how much each has requested and how much each should receive. So that's because we're really focusing on outcomes and who has the bang for the buck for San Marcos, who will bring outcomes that are also needed by San Marcos. And so we can go through some rounds of review. I know, for example, that duplication of services was something that had come up as a topic of conversation. So we'll want to be sure and cover that. So before I start though, let's go over this spreadsheet so I can kind of show you where we are so far. So you all obviously worked very hard on scoring these agencies, and we could certainly just go with the initial scoring results and be done. However, of course, the scores for some agencies differed widely among the board members. So it seems like some discussion will ensure that the final list is something that all board members are proud of. So first of all, let me show you this little table. Here are the ranges of scores that each board member had. And you can see that, for example, let's use Joanne as an example. Her low scores, I looked at the first 13 that she had, and her low scores ranged from 0 to 20. And then the next 13 approximately were from 40 to 80. And then the high score that she gave the ones that she considered the best was 100. On the other hand, we have a different approach. So Gloria, for example, her low scores ranged from 30 to 45. Her high scores did not go any above 80. On the other hand, Alfreda Lee, her low scores were from 74 to 90 and so forth. So you can see that I couldn't just average the scores. And so what I did was look at each, I put all the scores on spreadsheets into Excel. And I looked at each board member's scores, and I looked at the lowest 13. And I said, okay, here's the low range for each board member. And then I looked at the next approximate 13, something like that. I looked for a break in the scoring on each board member's scoring and made a medium range. Okay, so anyone from between 50 and 70 is kind of that mid-range for Gloria. On the other hand, for Alfreda, it's from 91 to 94. She just happened to score very specifically. And then each one, of course, also had a high range. And so, and I color coded it so that we could see it on this spreadsheet. So what I've done with this spreadsheet is here we have each of the board members' names. They are in alphabetical order across, and the total average score for each agency from each board member. And I felt like this was a good way to approach it because on our evaluation scores, each one of the 4 areas had the same weight. And so we're going to use the total scores that y'all came up with. So for example, Children's Advocacy Center, if Children's Advocacy Center was in the high range of a board member's scoring, it's a green square underneath that board member. I also made the high range have a score of 5 so that I could, so we need numbers in order to be able to sort of average and see how things rank very easily without having to like count little colored blocks and all that. So I made the high range for everyone equal 5, the middle range equal 3, and the low range equal 1. And then I color coded them so you could sort of see it across the board. Now you'll notice a couple of sort of gray squares as well. That's where someone exempted themselves from voting on that. So of course we have Eleanor exempting herself from voting on the Hays County Food Bank. She just didn't put in a score. So then I averaged all of the scores across and came out with numbers, and that gave me a start to setting up the spreadsheet. Also, what I looked at was the number of, like for example, green, the number of high scores that each agency got, puts it more toward the top of the list. So where you see a green color all the way across is where this agency has at least 4, so a majority of high scores, green blocks. So all of these top agencies all have 4 board members who ranked them in their high category. But you can see that they also had other board members who ranked them often in the middle category. There's some of that. And then toward the end of this green area, you see some where they were actually ranked in the low category for a few people. And so that'll be possibly a topic for discussion. Then you keep going, let's go down to the bottom opposite end, right? So for example, Splash Co-working, every board member ranked them in the low range of their scoring. So they are pink across the board. So they have a pink stripe all the way across. Same thing here in any agency that has 4 board members that considered them to be in the low range. I striped it across pink just so we can see like, okay, well, we do have 4 that are thinking this is possibly not worth funding, I would say is how it looks. But at the same time, of course, differences of opinion. We have a few agencies that we have a few board members that are thinking the same ones are really worthwhile, like they scored them very high. So another possible topic of discussion. I do think that once we kind of go through a round of looking at them by category, we may be able to drop some agencies that are perhaps duplicating services or which we think should actually combine with other agencies instead of maybe receiving funding. Maybe they just need to work together. So that's what we'll be looking at soon. But in the middle of this spreadsheet, the ones that are in yellow, of course, once again, are the ones that received 4 middle of the range scores. And so then the ones that have no color at all were the ones that I guess were the most sort of controversial. So like, for example, let's see, where's a good example? This one right here, Southside Community Center, Specific Assistance Program. It received 3 high scores, 2 middle and 2 low. So there's quite a difference of opinion on that. And those are the ones, it seems like, you know, in the middle where we may want to spend some time discussing it. Now, what I wanted to mention, let me make sure I'm covering everything here. Oh, one more thing about the scores specifically. There are some that are tied completely. Like if you look at these scores, they have the same number of high, medium, and low. So all of these agencies right here were all ranked the same. They have 3 board members who consider them high. They have 2 medium and 2 low. So I have ranked this whole list by score, but we also have literally some ties that we may want to talk about. Now, one thing I want to point out is this year we have enough funding to, here, I'm gonna hide some for a second so you can see it. Okay, let's talk about funding just for a second, because I want you to be aware that just based on scoring, for example, we have enough funding to go this far down. So if I add all of this up, it comes to 942,000. So we would have about 50,000 left to provide to an agency, and we could do that partial funding or whatever. We could, you know, literally stop right here and just do that. And that's certainly an option. What I'm recommending instead is that we go ahead and discuss things and see if we do indeed want to fund all of these agencies, because there was quite a bit of difference of opinion. And perhaps, like, again, what I was saying is, you know, maybe they duplicate services. So I'm planning to walk y'all through some rounds of funding. And let me bring back the gallery view so that I can tell, like, does that seem like a good plan to everyone? Like, what I'm planning to do is now take you through some rounds of looking at, okay, well, let's look at categories. Is there duplication and so forth? Is that where y'all want to go? Like, can I have like a head nod? Or, you know, are you more content to maybe just fund what we have, or just pick out a couple to talk about them? There's kind of various options of how we can tackle this.
I like it. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna ask, can you explain the original request category that's next to the one you
yeah.
highlighted?
Yes. So, okay, I'm gonna shrink this again. Okay. Yes, I'll go ahead and certainly. So, let's see, as you all know, there's a rule on the application that says that an agency can only receive half of the budget for the program from this grant. What we found was, let's go look at this one right here, Southside Community Center Housing Rehabilitation Program. So they requested $30,000. That was their request. But when we look at their program budget, and Irma and I both looked at it really carefully to make sure that, okay, we got this. And she also called and checked with some people on various ones. Their program budget is actually only 26.5 for the housing rehab program.
Okay.
And yeah, and so then, and I'm sorry, somebody's not on mute, so you might want to mute yourself. But so program budget is only 26.5. That means really they requested 30,000, but all we would, as I understand it, all the board would typically give them would be half their program budget, which is 26.5. So we marked the ones in sort of a yellow where we have differed. We recommend a different amount than their request. So here we had, oh, Southside, it's going to be like I'm picking on them. Let's look at this one. Access. So Access, their STEAM program, requested 75,000. Their budget for the program is 87. And so taking half of that, you could fund them 43,000. Are there any other questions on that? Oh, sorry, I'm covering it up now.
Does it say on this form what they're actually asking for, or do we have to go through this gobs of paperwork to try to find that out?
Well, I mean, on this form, so right here is the program name.
Oh, right, right.
And then right here is the agency. And then this is the amount. So we called it the adjusted request. This is the
Right.
original request. Yeah.
Okay, but you said this is what you're asking for. We can give you half. So, okay, no,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm duh. All right.
So then, and then just so you know, since it's in Excel, I can easily, play with the numbers with y'all or however we need to do it, but we can easily add it up. And what I can see is if you add up, everything like that's in order, even the tied ones here and everything. If I add up all the adjusted requests, I can get down to here. That is $942,000. And it's really small down here. I don't think y'all can see that. So that's kind of where it stands. I mean, it's pretty interesting. What I'm wondering is if we discuss things, will it be the case that you decide not to fund some things? I don't know. I really have no idea. But if you decided to not fund some of these things that are up higher, then we would be able to fund, other various things that actually scored a little bit lower. The reason I, partly, wonder about this is because like even the ones that scored relatively low had a couple of passionate board members. They thought they should be scored high. And so that's why I'm kind of advocating, I guess, for perhaps we go through some discussion of, I would recommend like starting with categories and looking for duplication and seeing, kind of checking through, do we definitely want to fund all of these agencies that are here? It's really up to y'all.
If you were to take out the last, can you scroll down? The last two that had low scores, like one across the board, Will Thrive and Splash. If we could, I don't know if they would agree, but since those two scored the lowest, could we just say that, just for hypothetical right now, we're not going to fund them and then put that money back in and see?
Yeah, so well, if we do, okay, so if we knock off the last two and we sum up all the requests for everybody else, we're at $1.3 million. And we have 999,000 to fund. And so there's not enough to fund everybody else.
I was just saying, since these were low scores across the board, I don't think anybody will have a problem with go ahead and saying that these two organizations we won't fund.
Yeah, and we can definitely start there. Yeah, that's a you know,
Right.
it may be an easy way to start. I just kind of wanted to confirm that you do want to go through some discussion on this. Y'all worked awfully hard on the scores, and it really does show, you know, you were very thoughtful in how you scored things. So I want to honor that. And at the same time, I want to give you a chance to discuss, you know, if you want.
I think that's a good approach, looking at the lowest scores, and if somebody feels passionate about why that it should remain, you know, hearing about that, but that would expedite things. you
I
know,
think
looking
so
at the-
too.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, that would help me
Okay.
out a
Start
lot
at
if
the
we start with the
bottom.
low scores.
Well, and the
Well,
risk,
basically,
you know, not only the scores, but the risk factors,
Mhm.
you know, also should
Yep.
be taken into consideration.
Right.
Because, you know, I looked at some and, you know, scored it a certain way, but their risk factors were such that, you know, that kind of cancels out a lot of the positives.
I did too,
Okay.
Gloria.
Yeah, I
did too.
agree.
I agree on that too.
Okay, well, let's start there. Let me show you the risk factors first, real quick. So here we have same listing of the board members in alphabetical order. Light green is low risk, which is a score of 14 or less. The gray is a moderate risk, a score of 15 to 29. And then this dark orange is high risk. And sure enough, yep, you look down toward the bottom, and that's where, you know, you can see that the risk scores are higher. You've got a combination of some moderate and then some high risk.
Right.
So, yeah.
So I would imagine somebody, obviously somebody with a low score and a high risk factor would at least tentatively be eliminated.
I agree.
Okay, so we can look at the bottom. Let's look at the bottom two first, I guess, or maybe the bottom three. So let's go with the bottom two because they are pretty clear. I think Will Thrive Foundation has 6 low scores and 1 moderate, and then Splash got low scores across the board. Now, what we can do is if everybody sort of agrees, and now I figured out I can put your faces on one screen and I have the spreadsheet on the other, so I don't have to keep covering up the spreadsheet. So yeah, okay, so if everybody just sort of in general agrees, we can go ahead and move the bottom 2 over to the not funded spreadsheet.
I would agree.
I agree.
So
I
okay.
agree.
So we are doing that. And the reason why, and I'm going to try to state the reason why each time, because Lorena is in the background writing down why, so that we have that for everyone. So Will Thrive and Splash are not funded because they have low evaluation scores across the board and high risk scores across the board. And I will try to make this quick. Let's see. We were cutting and put them on the pink sheet, which is not funded. Okay. Then we have, next up is Home Center. They also received quite a few. Well, let's do maybe even the next 2. It depends on how y'all want to approach this, but the next 2 have similar scores as well. They have 5 low, 2 medium scores. Their risk scores are Community Wellness Institute, which is Seek Institute, has a 27, so not quite up to the high risk range, but pretty close. And then Home Center has quite a high risk score. They're a new program and so forth. Is there a consensus on these 2 as well, or should we talk about them a little bit more? Like, should we move them to the not funded?
I wouldn't have a
list?
problem moving them to the non-funded, but I wouldn't have a problem discussing it either.
Yeah. You know, if it's a new program, they automatically got a high risk for the category less than 2 years, I think. What is
Mhm.
project experience, yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of a ding that's not their fault. And I don't know, I thought, I just want to explain my scoring. I thought they were asking for a lot of money. But it seems to be a bridge that's useful. I know I mentioned they've been doing that sort of thing in Austin. I don't know how successful it is. All I know is there's a great need. And it just seems like it could save money in the long run, and, help people get access to just to assess things and help people to get access to resources and find out if they're eligible for this, that, and the other thing. And it just seems like a good idea, so for me, maybe not funding them everything they wanted, but that's kind of how I thought about hotels and more.
And
I
that's
see
certain.
that.
That's certainly an option. Like we can leave them on the list and just sort of make a note, like consider funding less. And I would say from the city staff perspective, a high risk score doesn't necessarily get you out of the running. It just is kind of a note like, well, we'll want to be sure and follow up with them very closely if they are funded. So we can certainly do that,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I see it as being a duplication. And if we decide to give them anything, yeah, we would need to follow up, but I think that they would be better served partnering with Southside Community Center or Salvation Army. Those folks who have been in the business for a while, the resources that they are talking about providing, we already have in place. So it only, with the partnership, enhance the services. And, they would have to work that out on how that would be done. But if we give them anything, we would definitely, I think, need to be checking in with them if they didn't decide to go ahead and partner with some of the other social service agencies that are already in place. So I see it as a duplication.
I would mention just a point of information that these agencies, the ones that are serving homeless people, have formed a coalition already. And they are working toward having individual places of entry, like a coordinated entry system with a software system that connects them all. And the first three out of the gate who are going to get the training on the software system and be the points of entry are Salvation Army, the Home Center, and then the city, actually, the city library. So just FYI, they are in a coalition, at least, not necessarily a combined program, but they are coordinating. Just FYI.
Yeah. Well, what I liked
had
about
known that
hotels
ahead of
and
time.
more, well, I liked it because it was a short term type of situation where the Salvation Army and Southside, if you're able to obtain a bed, and there's a lot of more red tape that goes along with that, it could be, for a while. It just seems to me that this new agency could service more people. And, I'm still thinking about the freeze we had last year, and how that would have come in handy. I don't know where those people went, but I'm just saying, $150K right out the gate, that's a lot of money. But and I don't know if they, let me see. I wrote down if it was redundant or duplicate. I tried to write it down if it was fairly easy to ascertain, but I'm not sure who I didn't write down who they're partnering you get it right, partnering with.
Mhm.
So maybe somebody can chime in on that.
I agree with you, Gloria. If we give them anything, I don't agree to the whole 150. I never did.
No,
Because phase 1 and 2 were kind of fuzzy to me. It was like, I
Right.
really don't know where they're gonna start on phase 1.
yeah,
And then I agree with Mary for them to partner with someone and get stronger in what they're doing, because Southside also offers the same services. But if we give them anything, it would be much less, even less than half of the 150 that they're asking for, just to see how they're going to maybe work phase 1
mhm,
or not give them anything at all and have them partner with Southside and also the other agencies to see if maybe phase 1 can come out of there for like next year, and we can see how phase 1 is working. Because right now they just wrote that up.
well, and there's a lot of information that I would have liked to have had, that's kind of
Right.
missing. And, certainly we can make it a stipulation that, you can have, we're thinking of partially funding if you provide this information. I don't know if that's an option, but, I mean, 1,350 hotel nights. I'm thinking that would come in pretty darn handy. But I don't know how they're gonna pull that off for, and what are the, what's the actual logistics about that? Do they, because I thought about that, because it's more and more larger cities are trying to do this. There's hotels that are vacant now because of the coronavirus. Are they paying full? Certainly they wouldn't be. Did they take over the hotel? Do they pay a partial of? I don't know the actual logistics of how they bring that about. So I think they ought to supply. Here's a nice little, but it doesn't speak to that. About
They do have certain hotels that they're working with in San Marcos.
Yeah, I would imagine.
My
Yeah.
head, yeah. So
But what are the arrangements?
I don't know.
What are
I
the
do believe
arrangements?
that they've taken over. I can't think
Is
of
the, is
take
the best budget in?
best budget. And I wanted to say,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So they currently have 5 people in the best budget in that they are sponsoring with the funds that they've already raised. The best budget in, I don't know about the home centers program. I happen to know about a different one that has 20 people in the best budget in, and they do have a cut rate. And so they get $45 a night for 1 person and $60 a night for 2. So if that helps. I do notice that Megan has her hand up. Megan, do you want to go ahead and contribute?
Sure. I just wanted to say, first of all, I'm like sort of happy that I don't have to be a part of the money discussion, because this is really the hardest part. And something that Gloria and that Mary said really stuck out for me. I was not even present for the home center presentation, so this is really just more broadly. Gloria talked about there's such a present need, and I think that's so important, and it really comes to play when we think about funding organizations. But need doesn't necessarily mean financially, fiscally responsible. And I think that's a really important consideration. Again, I'm not speaking about home centers specifically because I wasn't there for that presentation. And then the other thing I wanted to say in sort of regards to that, Mary talked about a duplication of services, which I think is such an important consideration. But at the same time, duplication isn't always necessarily a bad thing when there's high need, because Southside only has a limited number of beds, right? And so I think that is something.
So does the Salvation Army, frankly.
That's not true. That is not true, Megan.
Oh,
Are you speaking? Well, you're not, that's not true. What you just said, Southside has a limited number of beds. Southside, if they ran out of beds in the shelter, then they would be doing the same thing as home outreach. They would be paying for hotel stay. So that's not an accurate statement. That is definitely not accurate.
Well,
And then also we got into some problems with people with the same kind of program. And Carol, you know about it, where we were putting people in hotels and we didn't have the money and nobody was managing the budget. And then there was no documentation. And I believe, Carol, if you could speak to that, the city had to come back and kind of bail them out of that situation. So there are some other things out there with people who are trying to run these programs. If they're not monitored, if they don't have a structured program, we get into problems. There are problems. And when I said that Southside and Salvation Army, I was simply saying that, you know, they have set the foundation on how this needs to be. And you're right, Megan, duplication is not always necessarily bad, but we want good duplication. We want them to have the opportunity to get started and start the right way and not run into walls and have issues where we're having the city to bail you out because you didn't have the structure or the know-how or the staff to manage to have the oversight. That's what I was saying.
So, and I would just say that was a totally separate program that was looked at for funding allocation by the city. And in the end, the city decided, and I was the one who did all the research, you know. But
Yes,
then
we heard.
in the end, yeah. So in the end, the city manager's office recommended that we simply couldn't contract with that other agency. They just simply did not have the documentation available and so forth. But that was a situation where they still are, they have people in hotel rooms, but they don't have the fundraising to cover the cost. And so that's what's happening, but it is a totally separate program. So far, Home Center has at least they have covered the cost of their hotel bills. And so they are at least in that way acting responsibly. Now, we would be looking, you know, closely, but it does seem like they have already provided much more documentation than that other organization was able to.
Are
So,
we not able to say what that other organization is, or?
oh yeah, it's been a public record. So it's Together for a Cause.
Gloria, it was in the
Yeah.
newspaper, Gloria. It was in the
Yeah,
newspaper.
it was in, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
So-
I'm not against funding them, giving them something, but I think.
Well,
we need to
yeah,
look at-
I just think there's a, you know, when you think about Southside and Salvation Army, it's not long-term, but intermediate. How's intermediate? You know, but I don't know how many, like, okay, there's like 12 or 13 beds at Southside, and I don't know how many hotel rooms they're allocated to put people in, and what the criteria is for that, and how long they can fund it, and you know, and same with the Salvation Army. But you know, I see the Home Center as a real. I like their needs assessment, where they cover these categories, assess their needs, and I kind of see it as like a you know, like when you go into a nurse and, you know, they ask you all the pertinent questions so that the doctor can come in and streamline what it is, or the PA or NP can come in and streamline what it is that they need to do. It just has the potential to be fairly efficient and help these other agencies that I'm sure have to go through all this same criteria. That's all I'm saying. It's just, I think they ought to get something. I think it's a good idea. I think when you think Salvation Army, you think Southside, these folks have been around for a long time. Salvation Army has obviously multiple contributors, and Southside, you know, certainly has been around the block, so they know what works and what doesn't. So
with that, I was about to call on Alfreda, but she has just left briefly. What we could do is put this one on hold, like just make a little note and then keep going through the ones that are pink. Do y'all want to do that?
Yeah, I agree. I don't, like I said, I don't agree to the whole 150. But
Right.
if we want to just give them something,
Yeah,
I'm
so I
okay
agree.
with that.
You gotta
But
Yeah, I
not the whole
agree.
150, yes.
put a separate category for, money, but not all of it. I don't.
Yeah.
Give them some, but
we
not
could-
all.
Pure potential.
Right.
So I made a little note and I think I'll make it red and bold so
But
we
I
can see
still
it.
think that it would be really to their advantage if they would partner with Southside because they've been around for such a long time and
Mhm.
they've been doing what they're trying to do for a long time. And I think Southside wouldn't mind the help and they wouldn't mind helping because I know the people that work there. And so,
Right. But did you get the impression the guy that presented wasn't
the guy that
No.
presented, he's sick and he's very ill. And so I
Okay.
think he presented the best way he could for his.
No, but
medical
I'm
condition.
saying it didn't sound like he was in favor of, right, and that was just my impression. I could be totally wrong, but
I
based
think
on
that was the money that they raised and he didn't know if they were held accountable for it or not. And just like the other organization too, we have organizations going around putting people up, but they're not accountable for the large amount of money that people are giving them. And Southside is extremely transparent and they are
yeah.
I guess, looking at other people and organizations should be just as transparent. You could go there tomorrow and they could show you their books since they've existed.
Well, right. I mean, all
yeah.
these agencies should be transparent, otherwise.
Exactly, but we have some that are not.
Oh, well, then they shouldn't
Which-
get, then they
Yeah,
should
so-
get the full money.
Yeah, and so that's
So-
in reference to Together for a Cause, just so you know,
Okay,
like that's
problem. Sure,
separate.
yeah,
sure.
yeah, I'm
But
sorry.
I,
Carol
I
knows
just
about
got
that,
the-
don't you, Carol?
Yeah.
I do. I saw it. Alfreda, did you want to say something? Your hand was up.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. For the agencies that we don't fund, do we point them in the direction of other agencies that they can partner with, or is that their responsibility? I mean,
Why
I
are you
feel that
echoing here?
Oh
Echoing.
my goodness, we should. Yeah.
Did you
Yeah,
know
we
that
should.
you're-
We certainly can.
yeah, I feel better about, not funding or giving them a lot less if we could say, hey, why don't you try partnering with, whoever.
That's a good idea.
I
Yeah,
agree.
I like that.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, we certainly can.
I agree.
Well, let's keep moving through the ones that are pink just real quick, and then we'll see where we stand after that. So the next one is Seek Institute with their Community Wellness Institute. And this is another one that received low scores. And then it also does have somewhat of a high risk and so forth. Any comments on this one? And then, of course, the question at hand is, do we want to just simply move them off the list at this point?
I'd like to comment that they're one of the only, one of the only people that asked for money for adult non-specific mental health. All the other people for mental health were either for children or women with the Women's Center, or like family violence or drug substance abuse. There's not, I know SHIB didn't make it. They were one of the other mental health agencies. That's the word I'm looking for. And they didn't make it. So I know I'm really sad to not see more adult mental health agencies out there asking for money, because mental health right now is such a huge, huge, huge thing. So I know that they're kind of new, and that's what I based my scoring off of as well. But I think that they're one of the only agencies out there giving just mental health help to anybody who needs it. And even I think that I was looking back, they're even helping people who are getting out of jail with their mental health situation. I think that's really great. So like you guys said about the last people, maybe not everything they're asking for, but some.
I agree with you, Melina. Not all that they're asking for, but to give them some. And they could also partner with First Baptist, who is on here, because they're offering adult mental health as well. So that would be a good partnership for them, because I like the fact that they were going into the schools and talking to the teachers, you know, as well as the kids. And so I'm with that, to give them partial funding, but not all, and then direct them to First Baptist, because like I said, they are offering the adult mental health.
And I was seeing some nods all around, so I think we'll go with that just for the sake of time. Like, we'll just make a note of it. And then we're recommending they partner with First Baptist. And so, and I'll start marking the ones we've talked about in blue so we can kind of keep track. And I switched it around to categories just to show, you know, because Melina was talking about the different ones that ask for mental health, but I'll switch it back now to the ranking that we were looking at. Oh, wrong one. Okay, so now we have Bobcat Pride Scholarship Fund, the Emergency Stabilization Fund. In this one, we had 4 low scores and 3 moderate or medium scores. And let's see, as far as risk goes, they are in the medium category, actually the same score as Community Wellness Institute. So any comments on that one?
I scored low on this one because it is a duplicate. I mean, just all the way around. And I specifically asked if any of the people were having any problems going to other agencies for help, and they said no. And the help that they're needing, especially the financial help that they're needing, they can go to St. Vincent de Paul. I mean, there was just a lot of organizations that I just know off the top of my head that they could go to get that type of service. And then being at Texas State, it was like, regardless if we give them money or not, Texas State was going to make sure that they were funded in some way.
So does any, I don't want to, I'm trying to just like make sure we keep a good pace. So I don't mean to rush y'all, but do you want to go ahead and cut this one? And because they're duplicative?
I would say I wouldn't mind cutting it because they are just across the line duplicate.
Yeah, there's nothing that they are saying they want to provide that can't be found in a whole number of these agencies.
Okay.
So
we will do that. So they are cut because they're duplicate. All right. Next one is Family Justice Center, the Therapeutic Educational Library. Now this one had a real difference of opinion. We had 5 low scores and 2 high.
Okay, what did I score?
I don't see it being practical with COVID right now. It's a library that they have to go to physically and touch things. And I just don't honestly see how helpful that is personally, but I don't know if anybody feels different.
I agree with you 100%. You took the words like, I'm like, how do I say this nicely? But no. And that was everything that you said, and whatever you're thinking is exactly what's going through my mind. And that's the reason that I gave it a low score. And that's the reason that I don't think that we should fund it right now. Maybe after COVID next year would be great to bring it back for whatever reason. But right now, no.
So I'm kind of watching people, but I can go ahead and put that not, well, I guess I'll let Lorena in the background type it because that way y'all won't have to wait on me. So this one's going because it's not practical for time during the pandemic, and
Yeah,
and it doesn't seem as useful.
I agree, it's a duplicate. And last year it was a different emphasis. Well, you know, I read last year the emphasis was on providing computer access to apply for jobs, email search, you know, housing, legal. The emphasis was totally different. So, you know, yeah, I'm up for. I agree with.
Okay. Okay, so
Yeah.
here we have another one that had similar scoring, 5 lows and 2 highs, and this is Melge, iron sharpens iron. Now, they also asked for quite a bit of money. I would note that they asked for their whole program budget. So this is one where we had said we would only be able to give 60,000 at the most. So just FYI.
No.
So,
I agree with the 60. And the reason that I gave it a high score is because it's not a duplicate anywhere. It is, and it's not a new agency per se, or a new organization. They are well established in Austin. They also have these organizations in San Antonio, but we do not have that here when it comes to our incarcerated population. And we do have that. And we do have that issue. And so, and then I also looked at the sheriff department, referred them, so they're already working in some capacity with the sheriff department to provide them services. So why not help them come to San Marcos in some capacity? I didn't agree to the whole 120, but I do agree to the 60. I think we need this type of organization in San Marcos, because if you look across the board in San Marcos, we don't have it. I mean, like, not at all. And they're half in our incarcerated population, and their families are having to go outside of San Marcos for help. And so if they are willing to come to San Marcos to bring an already established organization and platform to San Marcos, then I'm all for it. So the 60 I would agree to, but the 120 I wouldn't.
And I agree with what Joanne had just said. I don't know how much research any of you have done about on folks who have been incarcerated and the challenges that they have once they come back into the population. It's like starting all over, sometimes like a baby. They have to learn about everything all over. And one of the biggest challenges is housing, counseling, I mean, the whole gamut. And then you add on top of that, those that come back and have families. And so like Joanne said, you know, this is a well-established program. I wish that you all had gone to read about the program. It is needed here in San Marcos. I don't know where you guys live, but I see these guys out on the street every day. Okay, they're lost. They need the counseling. They need the guidance. They need to be educated, re-educated about resources. You know, can you imagine someone just releasing you out of a prison? You've been there 5 years and you're just 5 or 10 or 15, even 20, and then you're released and you're just out there. So you're going to start wandering around. You're going to start trying to survive. And all you know is prison life. And if you know anything about prison life, it ain't a good life. So we don't need these guys and girls out on the street trying to figure it out on their own. We need this program. The Sheriff's Department supports it. San Marcos PD supports it. They don't have the resources or the time to give that direct focus to these folks, but this program does. Trust me, I promise you. You will not be disappointed. I wish that you had gone to read about the program and the successes that they have had. So no, we don't have to give them the whole amount, but we need to give them at least that 60,000 to get started, to propel them out there so they can get started in this community, get some of these people off the street, get them refocused. I mean, I can't tell you. Okay, if you don't know anybody who's been in prison, and then to come back into the community, you have to learn everything all over. Everything's all new. They don't know where they can go, what they could be saying. You know, we need to do this. We need to do it.
so thank you. And Eleanor, you've raised your hand.
Yes, and I scored it low because we asked them to come back to let us know, you know, maybe if we couldn't do the 120, you know, what we could work with. I do agree that it is a needed program, and I did go and read about it and research it. So I don't know that I'm 100% with the 60, but I definitely think it's something that we need in the community, and I'd be willing to support it. And I was one of the ones that scored it low, and that was my reasoning for scoring it low. But I think that it's good, and I think that if we can come to works with the 60 or maybe even a little less to get started in San Marcos, I'm for it too.
Eleanor, what did you say? You said that she didn't come back to do what?
We had asked, if you can't get the 120, could you come back and, like, let us know how much it would be to start up? Didn't we discuss that?
Yeah, but she did. She said it to Carol. And I believe, Joanne, did you get anything? Did you get it?
Was it 60,000?
No, well, she just said that she felt like the amount that she had requested would provide the level of service that she was trying to give.
Yeah, that's what I
basically. So
thought. And so
kinda
that
like
was my only reasoning, like, just kind of work with us. We want you to come, but maybe 120 is not going to be feasible. So that was my
Priorities for equality and economy.
Carol, did you need to go back and ask her if 60 is okay and if she could, commit to the 60, if that would be okay for her to come? I would hate for that, just her not,
and then just not
bonding
come.
in a way, to prevent her from coming for a service like that.
Eleanor,
Well,
it seems like some miscommunication to me, because if she, Carol, at any point, Carol, you did get an answer from her, right? So that was
Well,
her answer, if she did come back.
Well, she did, but what I can tell is that we are certainly going to go to another meeting and probably a third. I could take this opportunity to let her know, like, hey, the board has discussed your application. You'll definitely not get more than 60, maybe less than that. Would you still make use of those funds, or is zero,
Right, and then that was my
the
point.
better way?
Not that she didn't come back, because she did, but she came back with the same number. And so I thought, well, okay, if we can't give her 120 and she can't do the program for less than that, you know what I'm saying?
I understand now. I understand, Eleanor, right?
Yeah,
I
I
think,
hear
Carol,
it.
if you would get her to agree to the 60,
Oh,
then maybe you could bring that back to the table and we could discuss that at that time when we're discussing
Okay.
money. Yeah, I understand now, Eleanor.
but you know what? Do we really want to do that? Because we're not even doing that for some of these other people. Okay, are we gonna call them back, all of them back, and say, do you guys, well, we might give you this.
less.
if you do it, I
No,
don't
I think we
so.
need to just figure out what we can do. And,
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Eleanor.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we'll mark this one down as it sounds like possibly fund 60 or less.
This is also
Okay.
an opportunity for this organization to be a wraparound service through First Baptist as well. So I would just hate to lose them, 100, be able to come into to the community to provide that service that's really needed.
Well, she was looking for office space. Maybe First Baptist, could provide that. So
We can ask, yes, I'm sure they would. I'm sure that they would love to partner with a program like that, yes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of agencies, organizations in here would love to partner with her.
Exactly.
We're gonna be making a mistake if we do not bring her back, if we don't fund her, I assure you. Because when you have law enforcement saying, we need this organization, we need this tool, the community, I'm concerned about my community and having these folks out in the community, just trying to find their way.
mhm.
When we could provide.
So let's
That's perfect.
leave this one on the list with that note, and then keep going through the list just to check these other ones that are pink and or low. So the next one is United Way of Hayes and Caldwell County with Smart Start Hayes County, and it's the Born Learning Program. Now this one was a little bit mixed. So it had 4 low, 2 medium, and 1 high. And then as far as risk, it's a moderate, I think. Yeah. Yeah, it's on the moderate risk side. any discussion on whether this one should stay on the list or go?
Just a quick, I wouldn't mind it going. It's a texting, and I think that they will do it anyway without the funding. So that was one of the reasons that I scored it very low.
I think it's a duplicate.
I do too, and I look deeper than that. Everybody does not have technology to text. Okay, you think about the population that you're going to be providing this to, and
Right.
these folks. No,
I agree. It could be cut.
Okay.
I agree.
Kinda
as
look-
well.
Okay, we will cut it. And the reason why is because it's a texting program, doesn't seem very feasible for the population that it serves. And then also it's duplicative.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's see, sorry, I'm wavering. Okay. All righty, First Baptist Church of San Marcos is the next one. And this is the one that has the Mission Able Housing Rehabilitation Program. And this is another one that had 4 low, 2 medium, and 1 high. Their risk score was still pretty high. It's a 16, so it's a low moderate. They are asking for funding for 2 years. And I thought I would just mention the board could approve that. There's nothing that says you can't, but it would be unusual, I know, but it is possible. So just FYI, that's possible. So what comments do we have on First Baptist Church of San Marcos?
Real quick again, the reason that I scored low was because of the loans. Loans and low income undeserved, to me, didn't go together. And also duplicate service. They could easily partner with Southside Community Center that's been doing rehabs for years. And I'm thinking that if they would partner with Southside, this might cut out the loans that they're having. The people get anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 loan, and you're already you're already having issues and money issues. That just didn't go together. And it let me know that they were going to get their money however, they needed to get it. And I think this was also for a salary for a position.
Right.
So that's why I said just no to the whole thing,
Right.
mainly because of the loans.
Where did,
Any
I
other?
agree, Joanne. I-
Okay,
I agree with I was kind of skeptical of the loan management. I didn't, I know that microloans work well in different countries and different situations, but just the management of that would be, and also their budget from the past, I believe, was like $2,700 for their program. And they had been able to get a lot done, so I couldn't see the value in 175,000.
I agree with you.
But
yeah,
okay. So I'm seeing some nods, so I'll go ahead and cut it from the list. And it is because it's loans for lower income people. Seems like they could get the same service from Southside without a financial hardship, without a loan.
yeah.
All right. All righty.
And there's no other funding. They have no other funding events. They didn't, it doesn't appear that they tried to get money from anywhere else. That's the
So
way
that's- yeah.
I interpreted it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a consideration too, for sure.
Yeah, and they're, they had 198 projects, but no statistics as to how many people they helped. And but anyway, you've already decided, so that's a moot point.
Okay, so we'll go on to Salvation Army, emergency assistance. So this one, when you looked at the average scores, because it has 4 moderate scores and 3 low, it actually scored lower than Hands of Hope, which had 4 low scores. So anyway, I wanted to point out on this one as well, that they ask for, their program budget is 50,000. They ask for 100,000. And so the highest that typically this board would provide would be 25,000. And that's for Salvation Army Emergency Assistance.
Well, and they
So
asked
the-
for only 20K last year. Right?
Mhm.
So 20K
Yep.
to 100,000, that's quite a jump.
Yeah, but we didn't have this much money that we were giving out either.
Oh, okay,
So you
well,
have to look at that too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not for giving them the whole 100, but I don't know about cutting them since they've asked for money before and we funded them before. But I think looking at the 25 that we could give them, maybe we could keep that on the board. And if we have to lower that, we you know, we have the option to.
And I do want to encourage you, you know, just know that because you gave them money before, doesn't necessarily mean they need to get it again. We are
Okay,
just
thank
trying to
you.
shift the focus
Okay.
to outcomes. So anyway, just thought I'd bring that up. Any other comments on Salvation Army and the Emergency Assistance Program?
well, I don't understand, because many of, well, I don't know, many, but there's a number of these agencies that you would totally expect that income would come into play. Yet it said, does program participation depend upon income or any other determination of eligibility? And they wrote, no. How's that possible?
So, and that's a comment. And then I'll go ahead and throw it to Alfreda. You have your hand up.
I mean, just saying, and there was a, you know. I don't
So
know
let's go
whether-
ahead and
Yeah.
let's go ahead and let Alfreda speak. Go ahead. And you are muted, Alfreda.
Do
There
the
you go.
agencies know what our budget is? Do they know how much money we have to allocate out?
They do. Yeah, it was publicized. Mhm.
Okay, all right.
I
Just,
say we
just
give
to
them
throw it
some.
out there, I'll go either way. If you want to cut it, fine, or if you want to keep it, and
Oh, I think we should, I think we should keep
I-
it.
I do too.
Yeah, I
I
do
do
too.
think
Wanna
that
keep
they
it, that's
helped
fine.
some people this year, that, you know, that people do need the emergency funding. And a lot of times it goes to the city utilities or to rent and things of that nature. So I would like to keep
I
it.
agree.
Yeah, I
Especially
agree.
when she said it's 25 is what we can give them, then yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So
I think I
keeping
scored
it
low
at-
because of the 100, yeah.
We're keeping it at 25, right?
Yeah, well, that's what that would be typical because that's half of the program budget. So,
Oh, sure. I
Yeah.
mean, not at 100.
okay. So let's say, okay, now here's a question for you. Do you want me to go ahead and put them on the definite yes list? Because I have, so far I've marked the ones that we want to maybe revisit or, you know, there's some discussion on. This is, you know, do you want me to just leave this on the list for discussion later or move it to the yes?
I
Move
think
it to
everybody-
yes.
Move it to yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
everybody's in agreement that
Yep.
money, but not 100K.
Yeah, okay. All righty, then we have Hands of Hope is our last one that got a full stripe of pink. They have some passion here. We've got 2 high scores, 4 low and 1 moderate. Hands of Hope, I think their budget was the same. Okay, so they are in a low risk category. They're asking for $6,000 for their program.
Oh, I'm trying to find mine.
The only thing that I have to say about Hands of Hope is I really do love the program. However, the 6,000 I think is a little much for the number of people that they're servicing right now. They just got a $4,000 grant from I think the Kiwanis Club, and they also have 9,000 in another account that can be easily moved over for help. But like this year, they only have like three ladies that are in the service. I mean, that are taking part of the service right now, the classes. They don't offer any type of food except for on Thursday, a full meal that someone brings in. So a whole $6,000 for just 2 to 3 people is just a lot. And I don't see them having to use the whole 6,000. Even if they got 3 people a quarter and they only do this twice a year, for 6 people, I don't see, it's not $1,000 a person. So I don't know, because they already got the 4,000 already. We can give them 2 to make up for what they want, or we can cut this until next year to see if their numbers go up with the people that they service, because they're not hurting for money at all.
Okay, thank you. And Gloria, do you have your hand up? And I muted you, just FYI, sorry.
Can't blame you there.
There you go. Okay.
So, I mean, 6,000 isn't a lot of money, but you know, I agree with the last speaker. I was looking at my paperwork. I don't even know who was talking. I was just listening. I mean, admittedly, they said their finances aren't in good shape, and there's they didn't have a lot of letters of support. They had one from a volunteer and one from the church itself and one from a mentor. So, no income requirements, not getting that. What was the other thing? Well, they were asking more than 50% for, of the budget. I didn't, you know, their marketing strategy leaves a lot to be desired. Best marketing strategy was through graduates and flyers. So just more information about why they should not be funded. Are we funding them anything? Or last year they got 3K apparently.
So that's the question on the table. Should I move them to the not funded list, or do y'all want to just give them a lesser amount? I'm not seeing a lot of
Give them a
faces. I
lesser
can't
amount.
read it.
Less.
Okay.
I would like to say less, yes.
Yeah, less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do y'all want to throw out an amount at this point, or would you rather wait?
No, let's do it. I say 3.
3,
Yeah, no
I
more.
agree.
Yeah, 3.
I agree.
No more than what they got last year.
I agree.
Okay. Okay. And then, okay, so now we have cleared through all the ones that had 4 low scores, and it is 8:15. So my question for y'all is, how do you want to proceed? I guess basically now, one thing we can still do is categories. We can also still just simply continue up the list and get as far as we get by 8:30. It's really up to y'all how you prefer to handle it.
I like the way you're doing it now, just going up the.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
seeing some nods.
Let's keep.
Okay. All righty. Next one, and I'll break at 8:30 and just see if y'all want to quit at that point. Okay, so next one is Central Texas Dispute Resolution Center, A Secret No More, and they are very mixed. And so we are now sort of in the very mixed territory. We're still going up the list by low score, but this one had 3 low, 3 middle, and 1 high. Do y'all want to talk through that?
Yeah, if I can find it.
And Gloria, I'm going to mute you until you're ready, but okay. So one thing that you can do if you're feeling a little unsure is, refer back to that evaluation sheet and think through, are they providing a service that's needed in San Marcos? Do they provide a good bang for the buck? Did it seem to have community support? That sort of thing. Gloria, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to ask you to hear from the ones that gave it a low score. I would love to hear why. I think that would help me better with the funding of it.
And Gloria had her hand up, so I can go ahead and call on her, and then Eleanor after that. Sorry, I muted her and now
All
I can't
right.
unmute. There you go.
Okay, so I gave it a 3, right?
Let's see. We can make this where you can tell who scored a certain way.
I mean, I took notes and
So here we are at, so the lower scores were from Mary and Monica and Alfreda. The middle were Joanne, Melina, and Gloria. And then Eleanor scored it high. So,
who scored it? I scored it high?
no, Eleanor did.
Oh, I didn't think so.
Why don't we go ahead and hear from Eleanor, and then we can go down to the middle and low.
They're asking for 10,000. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to giving them less, but I do think that they perform a valuable service for our community. They help people negotiate and not having to go to court, and helping lots of low income people that can't afford to hire an attorney. So I don't know. I just felt that it's a necessary thing for our community.
I'm with you, Eleanor. I didn't agree to the whole 10, but I'm up to giving them less than that.
Now, did we want to hear from Mary or Monica or Alfreda, the ones who scored low? Did y'all want to contribute what your thoughts were?
I just scored it low because it was asking for, according to the sheet, more than 50% of its budget. And that was the main reason, not just the risk, but I would be agreeable to funding it less than the 10,000.
Okay.
I scored it low because I noted that the funds were going to be used for marketing, and I would have preferred to see it go directly to the client services. But it is a valuable service, so I'm okay with partially funding it.
Okay, so it seems like that's the kind of consensus that we're arriving at. Do y'all want to throw out a, oh, so this is one that's already adjusted. So we can't do 10, we can't. We usually would not do 10,000. We would do 5 because their program budget is 5.
I'm good with 5.
Yeah, I'm good with
Me
5.
too. Me
For the
too.
same, part of the same reason that their operating expenses are mainly trying to find clients. It would,
So then
I mean, it would seem to me
neglect-
if you need the service, it would, you would find the service, not the other way around. I don't know.
Oh, Gloria?
What?
What's
No?
that? What did you say? I didn't hear what you said.
Well, it just seems to me that you would find, if you needed this service, you would find the service, not the other way around. I don't know, but they've got a lot of volunteers. And it was just a little vague, helped countless people. Countless people? You can't count them? I don't know. That's what they said. Wrote it down.
So
So
we
half the
have,
money.
so half the money. And then I neglected to ask, do y'all want to go ahead and move Hands of Hope and, oh no, we just marked them to stay on the sheet. Do you want to go ahead and move Central Texas Dispute Resolution to the yes list? I'm trying to just see if we're making final decisions, or is that still up in the air?
I thought Hands of Hope was a final for 3.
Me too.
Okay.
I thought
Okay.
Hands of Hope,
Yeah,
Okay,
Hands of Hope and then the
So-
rest
and
of
then
it.
and
Well-
Central.
Yes.
okay, let's go with that. Okay, and then next we have, oh, and it's, well, anyway, you can see it. It's Pals Prevent a Litter, helping underserved people. This is another one that was just simply very mixed. And so what would y'all like to say about this one? Let me see if they had any budget adjustment too. No,
I was
not
gonna
this
ask for that. Okay.
Okay, so no, they're asking for 20.
And do you know how much we gave them before?
I would have to look it up.
Okay, that's fine.
We gave them,
We gave them 95 last year. 95.
oh, really? Wow. And they're asking just for 20?
We gave them,
9,500.
we gave them
So any-
9,500 and they're asking for 20, Gloria.
Or 20, yeah. So why don't
I would-
we hear from the people who are passionate, I guess, Eleanor and Gloria were both the high scores on this one.
Well, they've been around for, I can't find my notes, but I'm familiar with them. I interviewed them. There's a big need. They've been around for a while. They partner well with the shelters and Paws and a couple of other places. Spading, neutering, that's expensive. And, when they said it, the average was about $350, I personally attest to that. So, they have the feral cat program. They got a lot of good programs. And I certainly think they deserve 20,000.
So then let's also hear from, and if you want, Mary, Alfreda, or Joanne. Those were our low scores.
I
Anyone
would agree
wanna-
with giving them like half that we've given them before, and they were able to work very well with that. They didn't show that they had a need for 20, like we have more, we're doing more. It was just the same, it was really the same presentation across the board. Nothing, no increase or anything, like due to COVID, they had increased, it was no increase. So I'm okay with giving them what we've given them before, but I'm not okay with giving them 20 because I don't think they justified 20 during their presentation.
I agree with what Joanne said. I mean, they can make it with that. I'm good with 10, but they didn't. I mean, it was a repeat of what they said the last time, and I didn't hear anything about new programs or initiatives or working in the community or, reaching out into communities. That's what I was hoping they were going to say. They had some new programs that they had put in place to move out into communities. Sometimes you have to go, when you have a service like that, you have to go to the people. You have to seek out what the needs are. I didn't hear any of that. So I'm good with giving them half.
I saw Melina with the head nod, so I'm thinking we've got, it sounds like a majority, so I'll go ahead and put funding at 10. So should I move them to the yes list or? Yeah, okay. All righty, and the next one's gonna be San Marcos Youth Service Bureau Teen Network Active Community Teens. Let's see. Go ahead and cut this one.
Oh, man, I'm getting, oops.
Okay, this one just again is very mixed. Maybe we should start from the low end and go high. So Monica and Alfredo were our lower scores, and then others were in the mid-range.
Can you share what the asking is again? What their request?
Oh, sure,
Okay.
sure. It's the program. Oh, this is one. I'm glad you asked that. Okay, so program budget is 19,000. They originally requested the whole thing. The half of that would be 9,500.
So if we fund them, then we could only fund them 95, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
I'm still looking for my notes.
So Eleanor, do you want to go ahead and talk through why you felt like they should be funded?
I do think that it's a good service. I'm a little confused. I think we've always had the 50% rule. I think we have. So I would be happy with giving them less. I do think that it's a valuable service for kids after school, to have a place to go. And it's been around for a long time and worked with other organizations in the community. So, but I would, if 95 is all we can do, then I would be fine with that.
I would too.
I'm okay with partial funding. I had a note that some of the funding was going towards staff. So that's a reason it was a low score for me.
I think we should
Okay
give
with
them
the partial
5.
funding as
because-
well.
Oops.
Oh, sorry.
I think we should give them 5 because they didn't do a lot, this year. They have not done a lot this year. And I think she said there were only 3 to 5 people in the program right now. And they have the opportunity to get lots of volunteers. Texas State has always partnered with them. I'm not sure COVID affected everything, but I think they could make it with 5.
And Alfredo, I don't think we heard what you were saying.
Yeah, again, I gave them the low score because they were asking more than 50%, but I'd be okay with partial funding.
So do I hear any traction on funding them 5, or should we go with, it sounds like most people are okay with the partial funding. Is it at 9,500?
Wait a minute, 9,500. That's
It's half of their budget, or what Mary brought up is, she thinks perhaps 5 would be more appropriate this year.
Or even
I think
55.
so. I think 5. 5 to 7. How's that?
Can we wait and see how much we have left over and put a note 5 to 7?
We sure can. So let's see, fund. Sorry, 5 or 7. Okay. Okay. So that one will stay on here just as let's look at it again. It is now 8:30. Now, do y'all want to continue on for a bit or adjourn and continue next week? We still have, let's see how many agencies we have left. Y'all are doing great. We have 22 left. So you have cleared through 14.
Oh. well,
I say we adjourn and have something to talk about next time.
So, okay, I'm seeing some head nods and I don't want to wear everyone out. So now what I need to do is hand the floor back over to Mary and she'll have to continue down the agenda. We still had to do, we have some required items on the agenda. I don't know why, but we do. So, anyway, Mary, it's back over to you. And thank you all for your participation. I think it's just been really interesting.
Okay, it's now time to receive updates from board members on activities since the last meeting. Do any board members have an update for the group? No? Okay, all right, we'll move to the next item. Board members may provide requests for discussion items for future agenda in accordance with the board approved bylaws. No further discussion can be held related to topics proposed until they are posted on the future agenda in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Does any board member want to request an item for the future agenda? Anybody? No? Okay, thanks.
So I wanted to, Mary,
Oh,
sorry.
I'm
I wanted to
Go
bust
right
in.
ahead, Carol. Go right
Okay, sorry, I'm not a board member, but one board member did bring this up and I thought it was a good idea. If we have time, like if we're not going to use that November 16th meeting for discussion, perhaps that could go ahead and be our sort of after action review. If y'all want to meet together just to talk through like, how did this application process go? What could have been done better? What would we rather see next year while it's fresh? And then we are already going to have a full-blown discussion on like policies and procedures and everything, but it won't be till like January or February. And so I thought I would throw that out there as a possibility for November 16th.
I agree with that.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Anything else, Carol?
I like it, obviously.
Okay, so that's it for me.
Okay. All right, now we'll move on to the agenda item called question and answer session and press and public. This is the opportunity for the press and public to ask questions related to items on this agenda. Staff, is anyone present in person, online, by phone to speak to this agenda item?
So we do have a couple of additional attendees, and I can allow them to talk. So if, let's see, I'm now allowing them to talk. So if either of you would like to ask questions, and it's only questions about the items on this agenda, then now would be the opportunity. We'll just give them a couple minutes. So, and it's looking like no need. So why don't we continue on with the agenda?
Okay. Okay, so thank you all for participating this evening. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second
Okay,
it.
the motion was made by, who was that? Melina? Was it Melina? Okay, motion was made by Melina. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, second was made by Gloria. All in favor, say
Yay.
aye. All against, please say nay. We'll now adjourn this meeting at 8:34 p.m.